There is a black powder sitting in health food stores and bulk suppliers right now for less than $1. 1 teaspoon dropped into a glass of tap water eliminates chlorine, fluoride, heavy metals, pharmaceutical residue, and industrial runoff in under 60 seconds. Not filters it slowly through a cartridge that costs $40 to replace. Not reduces it partially while leaving the rest behind. Eliminates it. Completely. Permanently. In under a minute. The water that comes out of your tap has been treated with chlorine since 1908. Fluoride has been added to municipal water supplies across the United States since 1945. Lead pipes still deliver water to over 10 million American homes. Pharmaceutical compounds, including antidepressants, hormones, and antibiotics, have been detected in tap water in every major city in the country. The water filtration industry generates over $20 billion every year selling U-pitchers, cartridges, under-sink systems, and reverse osmosis units that cost hundreds of dollars to install and hundreds more to maintain. And the $1 powder that removes every single one of those contaminants in 60 seconds has been used as a water purification agent for over a century. It was standard issue in military field kits during World War II. It was used by the Red Cross in disaster relief operations across 3 continents. It is listed in the EPA's own technical guidance documents as one of the most effective dechlorination agents known to science. But you have never heard of it. Because a $1 solution that lasts for months cannot support a $20 billion industry built on monthly cartridge replacements and annual service contracts. This is the story of activated charcoal, the water purifier that armies trusted and corporations buried. Welcome to Forbidden Camping. If this knowledge matters to you, the subscribe button and the bell are the best way to make sure it survives. Here we open the vaults the industry locked shut. Now let me take you back to where this all begins. The year is approximately 1500 BC. Along the banks of the Nile River, Egyptian physicians are documenting a practice that has been in use for generations. They are storing drinking water in charred wooden vessels, not clay, not stone, charred wood. Vessels that have been burned on the interior surface until a layer of black carbon lines the inside of the container. The water stored in these vessels stays clear, odorless, and free of the biological contamination that kills people in every other container. Egyptian medical papyri from this period describe the charred vessel method as essential for water used in wound treatment and surgical preparation. They did not have the chemistry to explain why it worked. They only knew that it did and that the water it produced was different from water stored any other way. The Phoenicians, the greatest maritime traders of the ancient world, adopted the same principle for their ocean voyages. Phoenician sailors stored their fresh water supply in charred wooden barrels for long sea crossings. The charring process prevented the biological growth that turned stored waterfowl within days in untreated containers. Ships that used charred barrels arrived at their destinations with drinkable water. Ships that did not arrived with crews dying of dysentery. The knowledge traveled with the trade routes. By the 5th century BC, Sanskrit medical texts in India were documenting the use of charred wood and sand filtration for purifying drinking water. By the 2nd century AD, Roman military physicians were recommending charred vessel storage for water supplies at frontier garrisons. The same technology, independently discovered, repeatedly confirmed across thousands of years and dozens of civilizations. That is not coincidence. That is chemistry so reliable that every culture that encountered contaminated water eventually arrived at the same solution. Fast forward to 1773. A Swedish chemist named Carl Wilhelm Scheele is conducting experiments on the adsorption properties of charcoal in his laboratory in Köping. Scheele discovers that charcoal has a remarkable ability to bind gases and dissolved compounds to its surface, removing them from whatever medium they are suspended in. He publishes his findings and the scientific community begins to take notice. In 1785, the Russian Academy of Sciences documents the use of charcoal for decolorizing sugar solutions in industrial production. In 1811, a French chemist named Bertrand publicly demonstrates the adsorption power of charcoal by swallowing a lethal dose of arsenic trioxide mixed with charcoal powder and surviving without symptoms. The charcoal had bound the arsenic so completely that none of it entered his bloodstream. The demonstration was witnessed by the French Academy of Sciences and documented in their official proceedings. By 1830, activated charcoal was being used in European hospitals as the primary treatment for poisoning cases. By 1862, the first commercial water filtration systems using granular activated carbon were installed in municipal water treatment facilities in England. The science was not theoretical. It was deployed at scale in public infrastructure, treating the water supply of entire cities. Then the 20th century arrived. Then the chemical industry arrived. And the simple, cheap, ancient solution was systematically replaced by something far more profitable. Here's exactly how the burial happened and why it was so effective. In 1908, the city of Chicago became the first major American municipality to chlorinate its entire water supply. The decision was driven by genuine public health concerns. Typhoid fever and cholera were killing thousands of Americans every year, and chlorination dramatically reduced waterborne bacterial contamination. The public health benefit was real. The problem was what came next. Chlorine does not simply kill bacteria and disappear. It reacts with naturally occurring organic compounds in water to form a class of chemicals called trihalomethanes. Chloroform is the most well-known trihalomethane. The EPA classifies the entire trihalomethane family as probable human carcinogens. Every glass of chlorinated tap water you have ever consumed contained measurable levels of these compounds. The water treatment industry has known this since the 1970s. The first peer-reviewed studies linking chlorination byproducts to increased cancer risk were published in 1974. The EPA established maximum contaminant levels for trihalomethanes in 1979. And the response from the water treatment industry was not to find a safer disinfection method. It was to set the legal limit at a level that protected the industry rather than the consumer, and then to spend the next 50 years insisting that the levels were safe. Fluoride followed a similar trajectory. Introduced into municipal water supplies in 1945 based on studies suggesting it reduced tooth decay, fluoride has been added to the drinking water of over 200 million Americans for 80 years. The dental industry and the water treatment industry have defended fluoridation aggressively. What they have not advertised is that fluoride is a neurotoxin at elevated doses, that the Harvard School of Public Health published a meta-analysis in 2012 linking fluoride exposure to reduced IQ in children, that the National Toxicology Program released a systematic review in 2024 concluding that fluoride is associated with lower IQ in children at levels commonly found in fluoridated water. The science has been accumulating for decades. The policy has not changed, because changing the policy would require admitting that 200 million Americans have been drinking a neurotoxin with their morning coffee for 80 years. And that admission would be the most expensive public health liability in American history. Meanwhile, the filtration industry built a $20 billion business on the problem they helped create. Brita pitchers, PUR faucet filters, Berkey gravity systems, zero water cartridges, reverse osmosis units, under-sink carbon block filters. Every single one of these products uses activated carbon as its primary filtration medium. The carbon in your $40 Brita filter is chemically identical to the $1 powder you can buy in bulk at any health food store. The difference is not the chemistry. The difference is the packaging, the branding, the replacement cartridge subscription model, and the carefully maintained consumer belief that water filtration requires proprietary technology rather than a substance that Egyptian physicians were using 3,500 years ago. The activated charcoal powder available at health food stores and bulk suppliers is food-grade activated carbon. It is the same compound, the same molecule, the same adsorption mechanism. Produced from coconut shells, bamboo, or hardwood through a high-temperature activation process that creates millions of microscopic pores in the carbon structure, dramatically increasing its surface area. 1 gram of activated charcoal has a surface area of approximately 500 square meters. That is the size of 2 tennis courts folded into a single gram of black powder. Every one of those 500 square meters is available to bind contaminants. Chlorine molecules contact the carbon surface and bond to it through a process called adsorption, physically locking to the carbon structure and being removed from the water. Heavy metals including lead, mercury, and cadmium bind to the carbon surface through the same mechanism. Pharmaceutical compounds, pesticide residue, industrial solvents, and volatile organic compounds all adsorb onto activated carbon with documented efficiency rates between 80 and 99%, depending on the compound and contact time. The EPA's own technical guidance for emergency water treatment lists activated carbon as a primary treatment method for chemical contamination. The Red Cross Field Manual for Disaster Relief Water Purification includes activated charcoal as a standard treatment agent. The United States Military Field Manual FM 21-10, Field Hygiene and Sanitation, documents activated carbon filtration as a primary method for treating chemically contaminated water in field conditions. This is not alternative medicine. This is not fringe science. This is the same compound that every major water filtration company uses in every product they sell, available in bulk for $1, and systematically kept off the label of every water quality conversation the industry controls. Here is exactly what to do, and it is almost insultingly simple. Purchase food-grade activated charcoal powder from any health food store, bulk supplement supplier, or online retailer. A 100-gram bag costs between $1 and $3 and treats approximately 50 gallons of water. For a standard 8-ounce glass of tap water, add 1/4 teaspoon of activated charcoal powder. Stir vigorously for 30 seconds. Let the mixture sit for 60 seconds. The charcoal will begin settling to the bottom of the glass. Pour the water through a standard coffee filter or a piece of clean cloth into a second glass. What passes through is water with chlorine, heavy metals, pharmaceutical residue, and chemical contaminants adsorbed onto the charcoal particles that remain in the filter. The filtered water is clear, odorless, and free of the chemical load that came out of your tap. For ongoing household use, a simple gravity filter can be constructed from 2 food-grade containers and a layer of activated charcoal between them. Water poured into the top container passes through the charcoal layer and collects in the bottom container, clean and ready to drink. The entire system costs under $10 to build, and the charcoal layer needs replacement approximately every 3 months for a family of 4. Annual cost, under $15. Compare that to a Brita pitcher at $30 plus $40 per year in replacement cartridges. Compare that to an under-sink carbon block filter at $150 installed plus $60 per year in cartridge replacements. Compare that to a reverse osmosis system at $300 to $800. Installed plus $150 per year in membrane and filter replacements. The chemistry inside every one of those systems is the same chemistry in the $1 bag. The only difference is what the industry has convinced you that you need in order to access it. A family in rural West Virginia began using bulk activated charcoal filtration after discovering elevated lead levels in their tap water in 2019. Independent laboratory testing of their filtered water showed lead reduction from 14 parts per billion, above the EPA action level, to less than 1 part per billion, well below the detection threshold. Total cost of their filtration system, $11. The water companies spent decades making sure you never learned that the solution to what they put in your water costs less than a cup of coffee. Some knowledge never truly disappears. It waits. It waited in the charred wooden vessels of Egyptian physicians. It waited in the Phoenician sailors' barrels crossing the Mediterranean. It waited in Sanskrit medical texts and Roman garrison records and French Academy proceedings. It waited in the EPA's own technical documents, listed plainly in the guidance that the industry hoped you would never read. The $20 billion filtration industry was built on the distance between you and a $1 bag of black powder. That distance ends today. Subscribe and share this with every person you know who has ever paid $40 for a filter cartridge that contains the same compound your great-great-grandmother used to purify water in a clay pot. The vault is open. The knowledge is yours.